Oftentimes when it comes to dictators, they will talk about how everyone loves them, how they usually score perfectly in sports and bowling, and how they're just loved by everyone. Well, it's scary when you think about the fact that Trump thinks of himself in the same way. And I have two examples to point to just to prove my point. So recently, Donald Trump claimed that he got a little bit of, I guess, a compliment when it came to his immigration policies from the president of Mexico. Here's what he claimed. Okay, he said, as you know, the border was a tremendous problem and they're close to 80% stoppage. And even the president of Mexico called me. They said their border, their southern border, very few people are coming because they know they're not going to get through our border, which is the ultimate compliment. So Trump made that statement. Okay, so did President Nieto call him and maybe they're friends now? No. The Mexican Foreign Ministry released a statement saying that Nieto has not recently spoken to President Donald Trump over the telephone. So the Trump administration was asked about this, what's going on? Seems like there's a little bit of a discrepancy here, and they responded by saying, yeah, okay, so we can see that he didn't call the president, but
he didn't call him, but I mean, can you rule out telepathic powers? Of course not, right? I mean, it could be. Maybe they spoke in a previous life.
Yeah, so Huckabee Sanders said that they had an in-person conversation in Germany during the G20 summit.
No, they didn't. Yeah. Okay, so he's a pathological liar. He can't help himself. That's what I mean by pathological. He must lie at all times. So now my guess, and I know some folks like this, no one to the extreme that Donald Trump is, but people who lie when they don't need to, right? And what they'll do is they'll conflate things. So he probably had a conversation with Nieto back when he met with him long time ago, right? Maybe even during the campaign. And Nieto at some point probably talked about their southern border in a way to empathize with Trump and say, hey, look, we also have a problem on our southern border, and probably talked about the economy and how that's being affected, et cetera. Trump's like, got it. And then, so when they asked him about it, he's like, well, our border is doing so great. That's why because Mexico actually is tougher on their southern border. And a lot of conservatives point to that as a hypocrisy on Mexico's part. That's an interesting point. So he probably bragged about that. And so Trump was like, you see that? Their southern border's fine now because of me, and he told me how great I am. None of the rest of that happened, right? And he still can't get it through his head that back when he was not president, nobody double checked the lies that he put out there nonstop.
No one cared.
Remember when he would pretend to be his own PR person and call in to like page 6 of the New York Post? He's such a petty child. Anyway, he'd be like, oh, I just heard from sources that Madonna didn't turn down Donald Trump. Donald Trump turned down Madonna. Wait, aren't you Donald Trump? No, I'm Jason Barron or whatever, right? So he's been doing this shtick for a long time. He's such a goofball.
All right, so there's one example, and you might think, whatever, not a big deal. Okay, well, there's another example. It all happened in the same week. So as you all know, Donald Trump gave that speech to the Boy Scouts Jamboree event, and it was more like a rally. It became very political, very divisive rhetoric coming from him, and a lot of people were upset. And as a result, the Boy Scouts eventually, finally released a statement apologizing for that speech and saying that they regret that it became so political. Well, Donald Trump doesn't see it that way. During an interview, he said, as evidence of how enthusiastic the Boy Scouts were about his speech, Trump claimed that he, quote, got a call from the head of the Boy Scouts saying it was the greatest speech that was ever made to them, and they were very thankful. Okay.
What a dumbass, man. It's not, you're not calling into page 6. We can check. We can just call them and ask them if you called. We can look at the White House logs oftentimes, whether it's visitors or phone calls. Everybody's watching you. When are you gonna figure that out? And he's like, oh no, I'll just make stuff up. They'll never figure it out. He's so painfully stupid, let alone liar.
Well, Time Magazine did want to check up on this, and here's what they found. They reported that a representative of the Boy Scouts of America said they're unaware of any call recently made by national leadership to the White House. In fact, 3 days after Trump gave his speech, 3 days after Trump gave his speech, they said they did apologize. That was from Michael Surbaugh, who is the chief scout executive for the Boy Scouts of America. He said that Trump's political rhetoric at the Jamboree was something worth apologizing for. And then he added that he sincerely regrets that politics were inserted into the scouting program.
So not only did they not say it was the greatest speech ever, they actually apologized to the Boy Scouts who heard it because Trump did something wrong and injected political rhetoric into a speech that shouldn't have had any politics into it. But look, you know it, even if you're MAGA, you know that as soon as he said, oh, they called me and told me that it was the greatest speech they'd ever heard, you know that they didn't say that. I don't care what you claim. You know that somebody didn't call and say, oh my God, President Trump, that rambling, weird speech that you gave, even if MAGA dudes liked it, was like filled to the rim with political rhetoric to 11 and 17-year-olds. Greatest speech ever. By the way, this is an interesting phone.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay.
All right, so.
Clown, liar, buffoon.
Sad.
Baby. Support independent media. Come join us at the Young Turks. TYTnetwork.com/join.